In case you didn't know, action thrillers, one of my favorite genres. Film, TV, I do not care. I'm gonna watch it. You know what's so funny as I'm saying that is I do not really watch the James Bond movies. I've probably watched one of like the last six, but that's not the point. Maybe we'll do a James Bond run on this channel. I love an action thriller. I love a spy thriller. I love a political thriller. Combined all three, and you are speaking my language. When a couple of friends were suggesting to me that I check out The Day of the Jackal, it only took me one line on Wikipedia to see what the genre was before I was like, I hear you. I hear you. I'ma be there. Literally, I give grace to I give so much grace to this genre that listen, Salt is questionable. Salt as a film has some questionable plot lines, storylines. I love that Salt. I love that movie, and I cannot believe they didn't give us a follow up. I think it's outrageous. There's a reason why Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie. There's a reason why I will watch every Bourne movie. I don't know. The genre just it does something to me. It stirs an emotion. Maybe deep down I want to be a spy or an assassin. I don't know. But yo, this show is really good. And it's so good that I actually went back. So this show is actually based on a novel written or published in 1971 by Frederick Forsyth. And then there was actually an adaptation on the big screen in 1973, which is a quick turnaround. Like he published that thing, they said, "Yep, make the movie." And so mid watching the show, I actually went back to watch the original. And I must say, the series is much better. I've really enjoyed this series. Now, specifically, what they do with this series is they look to refresh the political setting that is used as a backdrop for these stories. So, in the big screen adaptation, they use the OAS, which is the Organisation Armée Secrète. I don't know how to say it in French, but it's basically like the secret army organization, who at the time are basically rejecting the agreement of between France and Algeria to give Algeria their independence. They're essentially a terrorist organization. Well, not essentially. They are a terrorist organization who were looking to kill the French president in order to take back France as they presented it. And that kind of stirs in motion the hiring of the Jackal because their personal attempt fails. So they decide to hire a British assassin to get the job done. Now, that movie, having said I don't really watch James Bond movies, that movie is basically evil James Bond. Does the womanizing, he's as meticulous, as suave, as debonair. That's what that movie is. The political backdrop, they literally use it in the opening and it's basically never addressed again in the film. It's just the motive. It's just to get the wheels moving. However, this series is literally underpinned by themes of exploitation, corruption, the morality, questioning yourself as you're questioning yourself as you watch it on assassination. It's a lot. And I say everything's a lot, but it's a lot. They're trying to tackle a lot. In some areas or with some themes, they do really well. In others, they don't push it to the extreme that they could. But I think they do their best job at exploring some of these themes when they use Eddie Redmayne's character as the vehicle and also as a reflection of us as the viewer. Because often this show will have you challenging yourself because you're like, why am I finding myself in support of this cold killer assassin and not the people that are trying to stop him? And that's testament to some of the writing by Ronan Bennett. But huge credit to Eddie Redmayne. Listen, Eddie Redmayne, I, I, I never thought I never thought that Eddie Redmayne was incapable of demonstrating internal complexities. The theory of everything, literally, the guy's got a huge toolbox. The Danish girl. I never questioned that. But I never would have had Eddie Redmayne in the conversation for a James Bond. And I mean, he's taken himself out the running now, saying that since he's played this role, he doesn't really think it's necessary for him to play another Bond adjacent type character. But before he said that, if I had watched this show, I might have put him in. I might have put him in. I've never really considered him as someone who could pull off the more debonair, cold, meticulous nature of some of these characters. But he did amazing. And he's now been nominated for an Emmy. And honestly, once you watch this show, you won't be surprised as well. I mean, he literally has to transform. Talk about like Literally, the show was filling the hole left in my heart by the penguin. The makeup for some of the disguises that you see the Jackal put on in order to, execute some of his plans, they're not gonna win makeup in any awards ceremony simply because the penguin exists. But they were trying. It was twinium. So essentially, in this version, the story follows the Jackal, played by Eddie Redmayne, as he is hired for his most significant job to date. In the midst of this, MI6 get wind of his operation, and MI6 agent Bianca Pullman, played by Lashana Lynch, forces her way onto this case, and she's determined to catch him. And so many people fall victim to the wake that she leaves as she attempts to catch him. Now, I know you hear that summary, and I know you start thinking about Villanelle and Eve Polastri. This ain't no. This is not Killing Eve. Whereas Killing Eve is very much focused on the relationship between Villanelle and Eve. As of episode 9, we've had one scene where Bianca and the Jackal are in close proximity and they don't even get a chance to converse. There ain't no sexual tension here. Rather, the Day of the Jackal focuses on, as I mentioned, the destruction that both of these parties, the Jackal and Bianca, leave in their wake as they go on this cat and mouse pursuit. It's literally two cat and mouse stories. There's the Jackal chasing this end goal and this sort of freedom from this life so he can go into hiding with his family. And then there's Bianca chasing the Jackal for some sort of selfish. Let's get into this character, Bianca. Because, listen, Lashana Lynch, you're not watching this, but I'm going to address it like you are on the odd chances that you do. I love you. This ain't about you at all. Bianca sucks. Oh my goodness. This character makes me fume. And I think it's definitely the intention of the show to make you feel some way towards Bianca because they want to have you question who's really the antagonist or protagonist of this story. But I don't know that the show intended to make her feel irredeemable to us, but she feels that way to me. I mean, after some of the things she's done and the consequences of that, even yet still in episode 9, you still see her doing certain things. And you're like, have you not learned your lesson? And it's like, we're literally in this show, you have this software that's going to be launched by UDC, and the Jackal has been tasked with stopping that launch. So you would think that since that software is definitely something I think, in real life that people would want or would resonate with, given that it's going to expose corruption, etc., you would think you'd find yourself supporting Bianca because she's indirectly supporting the launch of that software. Absolutely not. I find myself wanting the Jackal to win. Why? How? And I say a lot of that in jest, but there is something odd about, this character doesn't exist in the movie. And so you create this role for a black woman, and she absolutely stinks. And I want to be clear, black women should absolutely be allowed to play pricks and to play people that we do not like. That's not what I want to say. But I do think you need to be a bit more careful because when I go into Twitter, when I go onto Elon Musk's app, and I do a little search, it's very easy to see people using this character as a smokescreen to say some pretty racist things about Lashana Lynch and not her character. And it just did make me itch a bit, just a bit, that they flip the switch and have a black police officer detain a young white girl at a protest and then she dies in custody. And you make me hate Bianca. That's nasty, man, guys. That is a nasty flip. Now, this show released 5 of its episodes in bulk for people to binge. And honestly, now that I've seen the full show, I understand why they did that. Honestly, if they did the first 5 episodes as weekly drops, I think I would have watched the entire show. I'm not sure they would have built the audience they had because honestly, the quality for me has really stepped up in the back half of the season. And so I feel like they were using the first 5 episodes as a platform to get people on board. And I mean, it essentially works because I heard about this show through word of mouth after the first 5 dropped. Some of the tension they build, the conclusion to episode 9, and I think episode 8 as well, the tension they build with the Jackal And, some of it is on Eddie Redmayne's performance, but also the writing and the directing in some of those episodes. Absolutely nuts. Not to mention the cast. You have the great Charles Dance. You've got Chikwudu Iwudi. You've got Nick Blood. Shout out to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Adam James, who loves himself a British crime drama. You've got Ursula from Money Heist. I still haven't watched Money Heist. And also some of the locations. Like, they clearly weren't going cheap on budget with this film. This is some prime time series making. And I have really, really enjoyed it. It's not necessarily doing anything special to like reinvent the wheel around like action or spy political thrillers. It's not earth shattering, but what they do with the additional runtime they have as compared to the movie, it's, for me personally, it's leagues and streets ahead of the movie. There's so much more complexity here. There's so much more depth. The Jackal has a backstory that just makes him so much more compelling. If you haven't watched The Jackal yet, all 10 episodes are now out. I would greatly suggest that you tap in. If you've watched it, let me know what you thought in the comments. Guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. Peace.